Discover the incredible power of your mind. A touching tale of honesty and 6 life-changing lessons in the heart of a small Midwestern town. Where cornfields whistled gently in the breeze, Sarah faced each day with unyielding determination. As a single mother, she wore her resilience like a badge of honor, juggling 2 jobs to support her gifted son, Ethan. At just 14, he was a spark of brilliance in the classroom but often felt the sting of being different among his peers. While Sarah cleaned office buildings at night, she often lay awake, her heart heavy with the burden of bills piling high in the dim light of her small apartment. Their town buzzed with life, a close-knit community that knew the power of neighborly love. Potlucks filled their weekends, laughter echoing through the streets. Yet, Sarah sensed the whispers about their struggles, the judgment hidden behind painted smiles. Was she failing as a mother? Should she have swallowed her pride and accepted help? The fear of being seen as less than clenched her chest tight as she watched Ethan grapple with his identity. It all came to a head one bright Tuesday morning. A gentle sun streaming through their kitchen window couldn't wash away the shadow of anxiety on Ethan's face. As he stood in front of the mirror, tears pooled in his eyes at the sight of the second-hand clothes Sarah had lovingly chosen for him. "Mom, I don't want to be laughed at again," he pleaded, his voice cracking. The weight of the world felt unbearably heavy on both of them. She just wanted him to learn humility, but all he felt was shame as his classmates' laughter echoed in her mind. Sarah's heart broke for her son. The righteous anger surged within her. How could they judge Ethan for things beyond his control? The emotional turmoil made the very air thick, wrapping around them like an old, musty quilt. Yet, Sarah vowed to fight the injustice. She could hear the whispering voices of the neighbors, the clamor rising for understanding and support. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed, and the incident became the hot topic in town, leading to a community forum teeming with raw emotion. Voices clashed, some clinging to traditions that held them together while others passionately called for change. The tension crackled as raw truths spilled forth, revealing uncomfortable realities. Would they open their eyes to privilege and merit, or would fear win? Just as Sarah thought she could finally teach Ethan about perseverance, a scholarship announcement blindsided her. Ethan had been recognized for his hard work, not for the price of his clothes. Whispers followed them like shadows. Some celebrated, while others muttered accusations of privilege against the struggling single mother trying to raise a boy who defied the town's norms. With a shaking resolve, Sarah's eyes locked onto Ethan's. She saw in him strength that transcended all judgments. As the town corners narrowed, leaving both clarity and confusion in their wake, would Sarah's fight for justice inspire unity or drive them deeper into division? As the meeting neared its boiling point, the lingering question loomed large. Could they forge a new understanding, or would they drown in the currents of tradition? It was a struggle for more than just a scholarship. It was a buoyant hope against the odds. The community forum buzzed with life as townspeople filled the gym, their voices mingling with the fluorescent hum above them. Sarah stood at the back, clutching Ethan's hand. This was it, their moment, their fight. With every face she recognized, a mix of anger and hope churned in her stomach. Ethan, unusually quiet, stared at the throngs of parents and students filling the folding chairs. The anticipation was tangible, thick in the air, and Sarah could sense the range of emotions buzzing around her. Some were ready to shout their truths. Others looked as if they were holding on to age-old beliefs with white-knuckled grips. "Thank you all for being here today," called Mrs. Carter, the school principal, her voice steady but suffused with emotion. "We gather to celebrate our students, their achievements, and to address the concerns of our community." Her words flew high, a tentative bridge over a troubled river. Sarah felt Ethan's hand tighten in hers. She squeezed back, an unspoken promise ballooning between them. She would fight for him. She would give her all for him to soar above the weight of judgment. The first parent took the floor, their voice echoing off the gym walls. I don't understand this scholarship business. It feels like a slap in the face to those who really struggle. A wave of murmurs rippled through the room, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably in their seats. But Sarah knew they had to be brave. I need to speak, she whispered to Ethan, who looked startled. Stay close. Her feet moved almost on their own, carrying her toward the front. Every step felt like a leap into an abyss. She steadied her breath, making eye contact with familiar faces that had seen her struggles firsthand. Excuse me, she called out, her voice trembling at first. The room hushed, all eyes turning her way. I'm Sarah, and this is my son, Ethan. She swallowed hard, pulling strength from somewhere deep inside her. He earned that scholarship, and I can tell you it wasn't because of privilege. It was because he worked hard. Every single day. Ethan's heart pounded like a war drum in his chest, a mix of pride and anxiety washing over him. The rumblings began again, and Sarah pressed on, her voice growing strong. We're not just talking about clothes here. We're talking about potential. This boy, he's smart, compassionate, and special. Sorting students by what they wear only shows how blind we are to true merit. As she spoke, Sarah noticed faces around the room shift. There were nods, reflections of deep thought blooming in previously shut-off expressions. Maybe they were starting to see. But just as hope began to unfurl, a sharp voice pierced through the tension. But we can't ignore the facts. Different families face different struggles. It's not fair. The tension thickened again, shadows looming over whispers of fairness and meritocracy intertwined with dismissive scoffs. Fear clawed at Sarah's resolve, but she's come too far to back down now. And what about understanding? She countered, her determination channeling through every fiber of her being. Are we going to keep erecting barriers, or will we unite to lift each other up? Gasps echoed around the room. With every breath she took, she felt lighter and bolder. Ethan watched with wide eyes, the worry giving way to admiration. But before Sarah could speak again, she was interrupted by a piercing sound, a ruckus that erupted from the back. A familiar figure stormed in. David, a childhood friend turned rival, certain that positions and popularity trumped kindness and community. What's going on here? He demanded, stepping forward with a mix of bravado and disdain. More cozy talk about privilege? How lovely! Laughter and scoffs trailed in his wake, and for a moment, doubt flickered in Sarah's heart. As the room's energy shifted, a single question loomed large. Would Sarah be able to rally the community behind her vision? Or would David's contempt push them further apart? Could they find a common ground where understanding triumphed over division? The tension crackled anew, as if another storm was brewing on the horizon. David strode to the front, his presence like a cold draft in an otherwise warm room. Sarah's heart sank. She had seen David twist truths over the years, and today felt no different. She could sense the crowd dividing even more, anxious eyes darting between her and him. Look, he began, leaning casually against the podium, we all love our kids. We all want what's best. But let us not ignore the reality. Some of us have to work harder just to keep our heads above water. And this scholarship, he paused dramatically, it reminds all of us how unfair the playing field is. A few cheers erupted, bolstered by familiarity and agreement. Sarah felt the weight of their collective gaze. Questions buzzed in her mind. Why was David so quick to dismiss what Ethan and others like him had accomplished? She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Yes, David, we all face challenges, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. But if we only highlight those barriers without recognizing the potential in each of our kids, we'll never lift anyone up. Her own words surprised her. Was she really holding her ground against a childhood rival? She couldn't back down now. And what do you propose then, Sarah? David retorted, his smirk returning. Let the rules bend for your son? You think one victory equals equality? The buzz escalated again, some community members shifting in their seats, uncertain of who to support. Ethan's grip tightened on Sarah's hand. She felt his worry seep into her, like ink on paper. She didn't have the luxury of appearing weak. They all needed to hear her. No, Sarah said firmly. I want to create a place where hard work matters more than where you came from. Where kids who struggle can find support without being looked down upon. This scholarship is the first step. We can use it as a model. Isn't that what we all want? A ripple of hesitance passed through the crowd. There were whispers, mumbled agreeances, but David scoffed. Hot air, he said dismissively. You think showing up and asking for kindness is going to change how this world works? Kindness isn't weakness, she shot back. It's a strength we can build on. The air shifted. Tension could be sliced with a knife. David seemed to falter for a moment, his bravado cracking under the weight of her conviction. There were people all around the gym, though, reflecting on their own journeys. Those who had worked hard, struggled, and now found their paths intersecting with one another. Ethan's heart raced. He could feel the change in the air, a swell of emotion pulling at him. Was his mom really changing minds right in front of him? The thought filled him with hope, yet fear lingered. As David stood there, processing her words, an encouraging roar of support emerged from the back of the gym. Remember, we're all in this together. Someone shouted, and soon others joined in, their voices creating a chorus of unity. But David countered quickly, recapturing attention. Sure, it's easy to chant slogans. Reality is messy. Sure, Ethan worked hard, but there are dozens out there who, before he could finish, an unexpected figure stepped forward. It was Mrs. Carter, the principal, a steady voice in this chaos. David, wait. Isn't that the point? That we acknowledge all our students, their efforts, their backgrounds? We can't change the past, but we can support the future together. Sarah's heart swelled at the sight of Mrs. Carter taking a stand. Maybe, just maybe, they were reaching for deeper understanding. As the crowd erupted into discussions, voices rising and falling like a tide, Sarah sensed that there was a shift happening. But just as the momentum seemed to grow, Ethan stepped up beside her, his voice breaking through. Mom, what if this leads to more scholarships? What if kids like me can have hope without worrying about how others see us? He looked at Sarah, his eyes searching hers for reassurance. There it was, a forgotten truth now resurfacing. They were fighting for more than just one scholarship. They were fighting for a community vision. As more voices joined in, the room leaned towards one question. Could they really come together to transform their shared narrative? David, now flustered, prepared for one last retort. But as the silence fell again, Sarah knew there was only one thing left to do to help them all see the true strength in unity, before everything unraveled. Can we find common ground? Sarah asked, her voice steady, meeting the eyes of the people around her. Or will we let this divide us forever? Hope lingered in the air, but could they seize it before it slipped away? The moment of truth was upon them. In the moment following her question, the gym fell into a thick silence. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, each beat a reminder of the importance of what hung in the balance. She scanned the faces in the crowd, seeing not just uncertainty but the stirrings of a desire for change. But would they reach for it? David's posture remained defiant, but even he couldn't ignore the tension brewing in the room. A couple of people shifted uneasily, glancing between Sarah and him. The stillness felt charged, electric, as if the very air was waiting for a voice to break it. Common ground? David repeated, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Do you really think utopia is just a few heartfelt chats away? Maybe not utopia, she replied, determined, but it's a start. Ethan felt the swell of hope and fear inside him. Was this really the moment that could change everything? He squeezed his mother's hand tighter, as if to remind her he was there, standing with her. Before David could regroup his thoughts, a woman from the crowd, someone Sarah recognized but hadn't spoken to much, stood up. Sarah's right, she called out, her voice trembling yet firm. We need to look past our differences. My kid isn't an honor student, but they're not any less deserving of a chance. A few more voices joined in, each sharing stories of resilience. An athlete spoke about how hard work didn't always get the recognition it deserved. A single father talked about juggling jobs while supporting his daughter's dreams. The room was slowly unraveling its heart layer by layer, truth by truth. David glared at each speaker as they rose to share their perspectives, his expression darkening. So what? We're supposed to just give things away? That's not how it works. His voice was raised, but the conviction behind it was faltering. Maybe it's about balance? A wise voice called from the back. It was Mr. Thompson, the local mechanic, a respected figure in the community. We've been bending over backward for too long, allowing some folks to just take while others give their all. Let us lift them up without tearing each other down. His words resonated like a bell through the chatter. As others nodded, Sarah sensed the tide shifting. They were speaking for one another, finding pieces of commonality amid their differences. How did it go from one battle to a collaborative movement so quickly? Yet here they were. Ethan caught a glimpse of relief mixed with disbelief on his mother's face. She had planted the seeds of hope, and they were beginning to sprout. With each passing second, the divide that David had relied on began to fracture. Please, David called out, attempting to reclaim control as voices rose stronger. You think this is a solution? You'll just end up enabling hope. Someone shot back, their voice filled with emotion. That's what we're doing. Each emotion in the gym crested high, like waves threatening to crash. Sarah felt her own resolve harden. We can change this narrative together, she added. Let us shed the past and build something real. With that, an unexpected cheer erupted, louder and more enthusiastic than before. Let us support each other, echoed from various corners of the gym, reaffirming the strength derived from unity. Ethan felt a surge of something stronger than courage. He believed in his mother's vision. Yet, there was still a lingering doubt. Could they really sustain this newfound unity? What would happen when the echo of this meeting faded? As the crowd began to rally around the idea of creating a plan for future scholarships, Sarah felt a jolt of trepidation. This was a fragile moment, teetering on the edge of something extraordinary, but shadows from David's past tactics still loomed. Are we truly ready? She whispered, mostly to herself, wondering if the momentum could hold. David, watching the shift in power, clenched his fists. He knew he had one card left to play, a darker strategy. He would not go down quietly. Was he ready to unleash his final weapon before they could even comprehend the real stakes at play? Ethan couldn't shake the unease curling in his stomach. The cheers around him felt good, but doubt was a heavy chain dragging him down. Glancing at his mother, he saw her enthusiasm, her eyes sparkling with hope. How could she be so confident when David glowered at the crowd, like a storm ready to break? Sarah, someone shouted as they climbed to their feet. Let us start a community fund. Scholarships for everyone, not just the best of the best. The idea hung in the air like a fresh breeze. Yes, another added, voices rising like a chorus. We can do this. Together. David remained still, but his jaw tightened. You're all being naive, he snapped, and the cheers faltered, uncertainty creeping back in. Nothing's free, and if you continue down this road, you'll realize it's built on nothing but empty dreams. A murmur rippled through the crowd, and Ethan could almost see the challenge reflected in their faces. It was as if David's words struck a painful chord, echoing the doubts they were trying to dispel. But Sarah stepped up again, her voice cutting through the haze like a lighthouse beam. Yes, we might face difficulties, but every change worth having demands sacrifice and effort. It's time we fight for what we believe in. Ethan's heart raced. He had never seen her so fierce, but doubt wormed its way back in. Would they last? Even as optimism crackled like electricity in the air, Ethan felt shadows of the past pressing against his spirit. Moments before, they had begun to turn despair into hope, and now one man's words threatened to drag them backward. Can we really count on each other when push comes to shove? He thought, glancing around at the crowd, many still nodding with concern, some uncertain, others firmly invested. Those moments where they had raised their voices together meant something. But what if it wasn't enough? Sarah's right. The voice came from the same woman who had spoken earlier. We come together, we find solutions. We can initiate programs that actually reach our kids where they are. The room began to buzz again, hope igniting like flames in a breeze. David's eyes flared, inching further toward the desperate edge of his control. Do you really think he cares about you? David's tone was cold. You think he cares if your child makes it? Ultimately, it's every person for themselves. That's the reality of life. His voice echoed, the weight of his contempt hanging heavily in the air. Reality is what we make it. Sarah shouted back, her face illuminated with determination. And right now, we're choosing to make it better. Ethan's heart swelled, but he still felt the rising swell of fear within him. The doubt, the uncertainty, it gripped him tightly. Yet, amidst the chaos, a small ember of bravery flickered inside him. The cheers grew louder, and he couldn't ignore it anymore. It wasn't enough for someone else to decide the outcome. They needed action, not just words. For every cheer for hope, there was a contrasting whisper of fear. They might just fall back into the shadows. David thrived on division. I have to help, he decided, his resolve solidifying. He wanted to stand against the darkness with every inch of his being. If this is where the fight began, then he would be at the forefront. But what if taking action pushed him over the edge too? As his mother continued building momentum, he pondered the reality they were the ones shaping their path. But what if that path led to more heartbreak? Ethan scanned the room, looking for David, but their eyes locked in an unspoken clash. It was a battle between hope and despair, and Ethan knew the fight was far from over. Let us not wait until we're too far gone to turn back, he willed himself to say, but the words clung to his throat, somewhere deep inside. He also feared that the darkness had plans of its own, strategies waiting to surface. What would David do next? The tension in the room crackled with uncertainty. And suddenly the door swung open, revealing a figure silhouetted in the hallway light. Everyone gasped as they turned to see who dared to interrupt. Ethan's heart raced. Who could it be? And how would their arrival change everything? The figure stepped forward, and the gasps turned into whispers as recognition washed over the crowd. It was Mrs. Collins, the beloved former principal of their school, her presence illuminating the room like a guiding star breaking through a stormy sky. The tension seemed to shift, hope and familiarity rushing back, bringing a renewed sense of purpose to the moment. Excuse me, everyone, she said, her voice soft yet commanding, drawing every eye toward her. I couldn't miss this gathering. I've seen what happens when a community stands together, and I've seen the light that sparks from unity. Trust me, it's powerful. Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. Mrs. Collins had always believed in them. Yet, David's scowl deepened, as if he could sense the shift in momentum. And what have you seen, Mrs. Collins? David challenged, his voice slicing through her warmth. More empty promises? More broken dreams? She didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her chin up, her expression fierce yet compassionate. I've seen a town filled with potential, a spirit that refuses to be deflated by fear. I know these kids. I've watched them learn and grow, and I've seen the real impact of community support. That's what empowerment looks like. The crowd shifted, a ripple of agreement passing through. Ethan's heart swelled at the approval in their eyes. They needed this. Change is never easy, she continued, her gaze sweeping the room. But we mustn't let fear dictate our future. We must become the change we wish to see. As she spoke, Ethan felt something inside him shift, a mix of gratitude and motivation flooding his veins. It was clear now. This wasn't just about addressing problems. It was about creating a foundation for everyone. He wanted to help, and now there was a path laid out before him. I'm with you, cried one man from the back of the room. Let us plan community meetings. Let us brainstorm. The cheers picked up again, growing like a wildfire, and Ethan joined in, his voice blending with theirs. Suddenly, he could envision all the untapped potential pooling before them. Ideas, resources, and hope dancing in the air like confetti. But in the corner of his mind, David still loomed large, a dark cloud ready to dampen their spark. Let us be sensible, David spat. You're also quick to rally. But these plans, they will crumble. Your optimism won't pay the bills or resolve the real issues we face. A brave woman stood, hands on her hips. What's your plan then, David? To keep us back in the dark? The challenge in her voice was palpable, and Ethan felt emboldened by her courage. David, taken aback, opened his mouth to retort, but it was Mrs. Collins who spoke first. Everyone here has the right to express their concerns. This is a safe space. But let us not forget the power we have when we unite. Ethan felt it again, the power in her words. It resonated deep within him. There was urgency in the air as they stood at a precipice. They needed to channel their energy in a meaningful way. Let us plan a committee. He heard himself suggest, nearly surprised by the confidence in his own voice. One that focuses on real solutions for our kids and our community. The room erupted in applause as acceptance washed over him. Plans were already rolling in various directions. Ethan looked to his mother, whose beaming smile shot warmth through him. He was filled with purpose. Yet curiosity tugged at him. What would David do next? What was his strategy? In the tension that filled the air, Ethan noticed David's dismissive glance toward the door. It was almost as if he was waiting for something, a final card to play. For a moment, everything hung suspended. Could they really build something strong enough to withstand whatever darkness David was brewing? Ethan took a deep breath. The fight was just beginning, and he could feel it tightening around them. But he also felt the support of everyone in that room, igniting a fire in his chest. As the chatter grew, pouring out ideas like water, the door creaked again. Ethan's heart raced. Could it be another interruption? Or an unexpected ally? Who would step through that door next, and what would it mean for their fight ahead? The door swung open slowly, and a chill rushed through the room. Ethan squinted, feeling his heart drum faster against his chest. The unfamiliar face that emerged was met with a wave of disbelief and curiosity. A tall woman with striking features walked in, her expression sharp yet determined. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady and clear as she took center stage. "I'm Dr. Ramirez, and I've come to share something vital." Ethan's stomach twisted. Had David sent someone to counter their hope? But as murmurs of confusion filled the room, Dr. Ramirez raised her hand to urge silence. "I know you're hesitant, but I've spent years researching community engagement and empowerment. You're right to believe in the power of unity," she began, her eyes scanning the crowd, landing on Mrs. Collins, who looked intrigued. "But I'm here to warn you, too. Change requires not only passion but strategy. It needs clarity, structure, and the willingness to face difficult truths." Ethan felt a flicker of annoyance. Was she here to rain on their parade? But Mrs. Collins nodded. "Please explain," she encouraged. Dr. Ramirez took a deep breath. "In order for your committee to succeed, you need to identify real needs, not just wishes. Gather data and insights from the community. Trust me, I've seen too many well-meaning projects fall flat because they lacked a clear vision." A few in the crowd exchanged glances, the seeds of doubt beginning to take root. David, emboldened by this new arrival, leaned against the wall with a smirk. "Sounds like someone knows what they're talking about," he sneered. "Are you ready to admit that this is just talk? Just another set of plans that won't materialize?" Ethan's pulse quickened. "No," he shouted, surprising himself. The room went quiet. He continued, "Dr. Ramirez is right. We need a foundation. That doesn't mean we're giving up. It means we're laying the groundwork for something bigger." "See?" David retorted, his voice drenching the air in cynicism. "You're just proving my point. When things get tough, it's the same cycle. You'll hit a wall just like before." Dr. Ramirez, undeterred, interjected, "Every transformation has challenges. But a very real wall can be torn down with the right tools. You've got passion. Now let us make a strategic plan." Ethan took a moment, absorbing her words. He could see others were feeling it too, hesitation mixed with hope. This could be the critical moment he needed. All it required was courage and action. We can't let fear talk us down. He shouted out, his voice echoing. Let us do the hard work. Let us plan how we can gather input and map out our goals together. This time, no one scoffed. Heads began nodding, and voices of agreement rose again. The energy in the room shifted back toward optimism. Dr. Ramirez smiled, impressed. Then let us start small. Form a small group. Seek feedback. Frame your vision clearly and cultivate relationships with local leaders who can help amplify your voice. Ethan felt a weight lift as ideas began buzzing once more. They had a new ally. The tide was turning, and David's dismissive attitude was beginning to melt away. But suddenly, a loud crash erupted from outside, harsher than a clap of thunder. All eyes turned to the door, where a figure stumbled in. Ethan's heart sank. What chaos loomed now? What could this mean for their fragile momentum? As fear gripped him, he realized he was on the edge of something bigger and surely more daunting than he had ever imagined. Would this new twist break their spirit, or could it galvanize them into action once again? The figure swayed for a moment, silhouetted against the dim light of the hallway. As they stepped closer, Ethan squinted, trying to discern who it was. The tension in the room thickened, a weight pressing down on everyone as they moved closer, curiosity mixing with concern. Sam? Mrs. Collins gasped, stepping forward. It was her son, the one who had been out of the picture for months, lost to a world of substances and shadows. His clothes hung loosely on him, eyes wide but dulled, as if reality was too harsh for him to handle. Ethan's heart raced. He had heard the whispers, shared laughs with friends about Sam's troubles, but seeing him now was a gut punch. This wasn't the Sam they all remembered. Mom, Sam croaked, voice barely above a whisper. He stumbled further into the room, a mixture of fear and fragility written all over him. The crowd reacted, a mixture of gasps and murmurs rippling through. Sam, we thought you were getting help, Mrs. Collins exclaimed, tears beginning to pool in her eyes. Her voice trembled, a blend of anger and love. I tried, he mumbled, shaking his head as he leaned against the wall for support. His words trailed off, and the silence that followed was as heavy as his admission. Dr. Ramirez stepped closer, her demeanor shifting instantly from professional to compassionate. It's all right, Sam. You're safe here. She looked around the room, gauging everyone's reactions. We can all feel lost sometimes. Can't we? Ethan watched as the room began to soften. The anger at Sam's arrival began to fade, replaced by empathy. A collective realization swept through them. This experience was about community, and every member mattered, even the ones who had strayed. Let us help him, Ethan spoke up, his voice steadying with determination. He is part of our community too. Everyone deserves a second chance. David, who had remained silent so far, rolled his eyes. Really? You think we can rescue him? Look where that got us. But his words felt weaker this time, almost like they held less power in the presence of Sam's vulnerability. Mrs. Collins stepped in front of David, her eyes fierce. Yes, my son. He deserves support, not judgment. Her voice broke slightly, and Ethan felt his heart pinch for her. Dr. Ramirez took a deep breath. Exactly. This is the kind of moment where we unite. She pointed to the group. What we're trying to build here involves lifting each other up. How could anyone have expected a miracle without understanding the struggles firsthand? Hope sparked again in Ethan's gut. Let us not just gather feedback from the community, let us bring our community together. We can set up support networks not just for planning but for healing too. We can develop something that involves everyone. Slow nods replaced the earlier expressions of doubt in the room. Eyes that had been downcast began to lift, the air thickening with an unspoken bond forming in the face of adversity. Maybe this was what Dr. Ramirez meant by building a foundation. It was more than ideals. It was about compassion and community in action. But just as the energy surged, another crash echoed in the hallway, this time louder and more violent. Ethan turned sharply, heart pounding. What else waited beyond that door? Would this additional chaos tear them apart? Or could it draw them closer together, lifting up the fallen and standing tall against the world? Ethan felt his breath hitch in his throat. Everyone's eyes darted toward the hallway, the collective fear palpable. Sam, still leaning against the wall, flinched at the sound, his fragile state becoming even more evident. The noise seemed to shake the very foundations of their gathering. What had it been? "Stay here," Dr. Ramirez instructed the group, though her voice radiated calmness. She stepped toward the hallway cautiously, glancing back as she paused. "We need to see what's going on." Hearts raced as she disappeared around the corner. The tension was all-consuming. The rest of the group stood frozen, exchanging anxious glances, the air thick with unspoken questions. "Maybe it's just a door slamming," someone offered weakly, but the doubt hung heavy. "What if it's something serious?" Mrs. Collins whispered, clutching Sam's arm with a strength that made him tremble. Her fierce love cracked the wall Sam had built around himself. It was a tangible reminder that he wasn't alone, even if he was still lost. Ethan's mind raced. Dr. Ramirez was their anchor. If she was heading into danger, a tense moment passed that felt like an eternity. Then they heard Dr. Ramirez's voice, high-pitched and tight. "Everyone, back away from the door." The authority in her tone replaced the air of fear, pushing everyone back instinctively. Ethan felt a swift rush of adrenaline course through him. He wanted to move, to follow her. He had to know what was happening, but he hesitated. He didn't want to make things worse. In the midst of chaos, this group had begun to come together, to feel like something more meaningful. Suddenly, there was a loud crash again, stirring embers of dread in Ethan's gut. He turned, locking eyes with Sam. The boy looked utterly lost, battling shadows that only he could see. But underneath the palpable fear, something flickered. Was it hope? The crowd murmured. "What's happening? What do we do?" The room buzzed with tension. "We wait," Ethan said, surprising even himself with the conviction behind his words. "Right now, we need to trust in Dr. Ramirez. She's proven she can handle tough situations before." David shot him a narrow-eyed glance, then scoffed, trusting isn't going to fix anything. Yet his bravado felt weaker than it had moments ago. "Yes, it can," Mrs. Collins interjected fiercely. "It's what we've been building here. Sam, you're not fighting this alone anymore." As they spoke, the sounds in the hallway dulled, replaced by silence. That absence should have eased their minds, yet it amplified the boiling tension. Would Dr. Ramirez return unharmed? Would the group unravel or grow stronger in this moment of crisis? Just then, the door swung open. Dr. Ramirez emerged, flustered but unharmed, a sense of urgency radiating from her. "Everyone, it's okay. There's just been an unfortunate mix-up. Let's stay focused on our purpose here." But as she said the words, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this mix-up was just the beginning. An unsettling sense filled the room, the air thick with unspoken fears that clung to their collective consciousness. "What about Sam?" someone finally asked, breaking the silence. All eyes turned to the fragile figure who was still leaning against the wall, clearly shaken. Ethan could feel the shift. They weren't just rallying to support Sam. They were becoming a united front. But that was only if the next challenge didn't unravel them first. As the room filled with murmurs of concern and determination, Ethan felt a stirring in his gut. What were they building? And would they be strong enough to withstand whatever chaos lurked just beyond the edges of their little community? He took a deep breath and stepped towards Sam, resolve settling in like armor around him. It was time to take a stand for each other, no matter what lay ahead. But as he reached out, the lights flickered overhead. An ominous sign? What would that mean for their gathering? The lights dimmed and flickered, casting shadows that danced along the gym walls. A low murmur ran through the crowd. Ethan's heart raced. He felt the weight of every gaze resting on him. Sam leaned heavily against the wall, the color drained from his face. It was as if the flickering lights projected the uncertainty that hung in the air. "Everyone, stay focused," Dr. Ramirez urged, her voice cutting through the tension like a lifeline. The heat of anxiety wrapped around them, but in that moment, something shifted. The group was here. They were a collective standing strong, no matter the doubts lingering on the edges. Sam, Ethan said, stepping closer. We're in this together. He felt a surge of courage welling inside him as he spoke. You don't have to face this alone. The crowd grew quiet as everyone's eyes settled on Sam, watching with compassion that pierced through the initial shock. They were not just spectators. They were a community willing to embrace their own. Slowly, Sam lifted his gaze, searching for the warmth in their expressions. Behind his fear, Ethan saw a flicker of recognition, a growing understanding that he wasn't invisible. In that electric moment, Mrs. Collins stepped forward. Sam, I know it hurts, she spoke, her voice firm yet tender. You may feel lost, but we're here to help you find your way back. Tears glimmered in her eyes, but they shone with hope, not despair. The quiet resolve in the room began to grow. We all have our battles to fight, one woman called out. You're a part of this family, Sam. Community means lifting each other. David, standing off to the side, couldn't remain silent anymore. This is naive, he shouted, his frustration boiling over. When faced with reality, you'll all crumble. But there was something different about the crowd now. His words didn't hold the same power they once did. David, Dr. Ramirez said calmly, we understand the struggles. It's not about ignoring them but creating pathways to overcome them together. Together. The word echoed off the gym walls, and a collective sense of understanding swept through the crowd like a tide. They were all intertwined in this shared experience of life, both its struggles and its triumphs. Let us show what unity looks like, Ethan shouted, feeling the warmth of resolve ignite in his chest. Let us start a support system for anyone who needs it, not just Sam but everyone who feels out of place. The room erupted into applause. Smiles broke across worried faces. Just as momentum was building, the lights flickered again, more insistently this time, like a heartbeat racing in anticipation. That moment, Sam pulled himself up and straightened, words spilling out with a newfound clarity. I don't need just talk. I want to connect, really connect. I'm tired of feeling like a burden. I want to be better. This was the turning point. Ethan felt pride swell in him as he looked around at the crowd, now leaning in with empathy. They had stepped into a realm of vulnerability together. And here was Sam, vulnerable yet courageous, standing at the edge of a new beginning. Let us create something real, said a voice from the back, one that resonated with clear determination. Programs that empower not just for kids facing issues but for families, too. They cheered again, this time with fervor. The gym pulsed with energy, a beating heart of community spirit rising against the tide of doubt. Ethan watched his mother's face shine with pride, a glint of hope illuminating the path ahead. We can share resources, provide mentorship, host workshops. He jumped in, the ideas bubbling over like laughter. Let us embrace our stories. The echoes of support exploded around them. Yes, someone yelled. Let us stop the whispers and lift each other up. With every suggestion, the crowd found direction toward a shared mission, each voice chipping away at the barriers of fear and judgment. The gym felt like the new center of their community, a place not just to voice grievances but to forge a path toward healing and progress. And then, amidst the chaos, a strong yet calming presence emerged once more. Dr. Ramirez. If we're serious about embarking on this journey, let us think strategically, she said, holding the crowd's attention. Let us articulate our goals and establish who we want to reach and how. This is the diamond of grassroots change. Ethan felt a shiver of excitement. This was the clarity they needed. The flickering lights steadied as the sense of purpose united them. It was their moment not merely to speak but to act. The first step, she said, is gathering the community. Form groups to assess needs and build connections. Make your desires tangible. As she continued laying down the foundation, Ethan felt confidence tingling in his fingers. Their discussions formed new branches reaching out into their town. This wasn't a battle against David. This was a transformation for everyone. After hours of planning, they finally stood together as a united front, hearts vibrating with anticipation. The previous struggles didn't dissolve, but they united to face them head-on as the first evening shadows elongate against the gym walls. The lights flickered once more, But this time they signaled something powerful, a new beginning. Sam squared his shoulders, visibly lighter, as if lifted by the collective will of their community. "We can do this," Ethan said, eyes locked on his peers, hand clapping against his mother's, beaming with pride. "This isn't just a dream. It's happening. Together we can change our narrative." And with that, Ethan felt the air wrap around them, electric with the promise of what they could achieve when they held each other close, acknowledging every struggle while bridging every gap. Together, they transformed from whispers of judgment into a resounding chorus of change. The battle wasn't over, but they were no longer alone. They had ignited a fire fueled by love, understanding, and unwavering belief in one another. As they exited the gym into the night, standing shoulder to shoulder, they knew that the world was vast and the fight was still ahead. But hope was alive, blooming brighter than ever before. Now is the moment. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. And leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything. Do you feel the energy from this transformation? Comment below your reactions and feelings about the ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiration. Together we can build a powerful community.